think outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. I can't tell you how excited I was to go to the Detroit Auto Show this year and walk the show and see the new cars. I hope you had a chance to go to the auto show as well. And something that we did, if you saw our two-part series on NAIAS 2014, you know what we're going to talk about today, which is something very important to all of us, and that is pickup trucks. Now, even if you don't own a pickup truck, don't need a pickup truck, there was huge news out of the Detroit show, and that was we have new directions where our pickup truck market's going. And if you're a Cars in Context watcher, then you know we've done a show on, hey, whatever happened to small pickups? And my buddy and I thought we were going to see some news on small pickups. We didn't. What we did find out is what is going on. Is it going to be lighter, or is it going to be smaller? And to answer that question, we brought in none other than Chris Sawyer.
Chris Sawyer?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, he owes me money. Where is he?
He's right here.
Oh,
He's of thevirtualdriver.com.
How are you, John?
I'm so great, especially after we knocked it out of the park with that Detroit Auto Show stuff. You were right spot on all your selections. I got to tell you, Chris, folks, if you haven't seen that show, go back to our YouTube channel or call WMTV and get a DVD copy of our show for yourself, because then you can, next year you can say, hey, wait a minute, what you guys said last year came true. How do you guys do it?
We travel through time.
Well, we did travel.
And we come back.
We had a good time at the auto show, and we did find out that pickups are going in different directions right now, and maybe not the one that we are pointing out that could be a very viable market. So we should talk about that today. Pickups later, smaller. But before we do, Chris, you know what we're going to find out?
What's in the news?
Yeah. He's been watching the show before. Yes,
I actually was reading.
We're going to find out what's in the news, and I'll start. You know, some people talk about Detroit, and if you've seen the Super Bowl ads, you know, Detroit's always had this black eye about, you know, being behind the times, not being techie. People in Silicon Valley out west, you know, we're building cars now, we can do it better than Detroit. Well, guess what? They're wrong. As a matter of fact, a new study for the Center on Automotive Research, now that's in Ann Arbor, another techie town, shows that the auto industry spends about $100 billion on research and development every year. Every year, $100 billion.
Well, it is the most regulated product on the face of the planet.
Which we should talk about. Because that equals about, for your vehicles, the ones you own in your family and the ones that you have in your driveway or across the street, it's about $1,200 for every vehicle that's sitting out there. And there are more engineers employed by automakers than any other industry, as measured by the number of engineers per 1,000 jobs. Now, and get this, the average car, and you've said this 1,000 times before, and people, I don't know if they're not believing you.
You make 1,001.
Oh, okay, here we go. Has 60 microprocessors. There's more than 10 million lines of software code in your car alone, in the computer in your car. That's crazy.
That's more lines of code than World of Warcraft.
And Dungeons and Dragons guys. So get out of your basement, go get a job with the auto company. Guys, when you think tech, you should be thinking Detroit.
Okay.
Give me a headline, Chris.
All right, this one comes, this is interesting. Sales of Honda's car-based pickup, the Ridgeline.
The Ridgeline.
Struggling for years. The pickup that wasn't a pickup.
Doesn't know what it wants to be when it grows up.
Well, we heard that Honda was going to drop the Ridgeline from production.
We announced it on the show.
Guess what?
No.
They changed their mind.
No, they're going to drop it.
No.
They're going to cut back on production.
No.
Yeah,
well, they're going to cut back on production. It's going out of production at the end of in mid-2014.
Yeah, it's gone.
But that's because there's a new model coming.
A Ridgeline?
A new Ridgeline.
A car-based Ridgeline, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
It will be sleeker, more conventional. So in other words, you won't have that little thing underneath the load floor that you can't get to
so
because you put stuff in the back.
When you load the truck up and you get a flat tire, you can't get to the spare because it's underneath the bed? Okay, well, that was a good idea.
But
I don't get it. Why are they going to do this? If it's not selling, Chris, why are you coming out with it again?
Because they found out, much like Toyota has found out, and Nissan for that matter, which introduced a diesel concept truck of the Frontier at
Yeah.
Chicago just yesterday, that you're nowhere without a pickup truck in your lineup. In fact, you're nowhere anywhere on this planet without a pickup. As we were talking before the show,
Yeah.
if you go to Europe, what's the fastest growing fastest growing market? Pickup trucks.
And which was crazy because, back in Europe, if you wanted something from the store, let me call the lorry driver, and the lorry driver would deliver it to you. You didn't have trucks.
Yes, and
Yeah,
why
these
those
little
guys are
tiny
named
little-
Lorry in the first place.
Yeah,
I don't
lorry.
understand
Yeah,
that,
I don't
but-
know. Well, let me take it. Speaking of cars, now hybrid.
Oh, we're back to cars again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go back because really the
Oh, yes,
tell
it is
people the
cars in
Ridgeline.
context, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's cars in contact. The
Yeah.
Ridgeline is a
Car.
car. It's based on a car.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. So the biggest hybrid car flag waver out there is Toyota, and people don't realize that they got to that hybrid supremacy by their government sponsoring their development of the hybrid systems in cars. And in recent years, of course, they dominated the market. And then just recently, this last couple of years, we've had a resurgence of sales. And Chris, hybrid sales are actually up. We've been
Of course
reporting
they
for
are.
years they're down. They're actually up. But Toyota, the largest, the owner of the market, is losing market share. Now, why is that?
Because there are more players in the market?
Why do I bother reading the news when he's just going to give you the answers? Yeah, the answer is because now 9 different automakers are selling hybrid vehicles. Can you just wait until I can finish my news? Okay. So total sales last year, that's 2013, 489,000 units. We were talking about hybrids being 2-3% of the market. So with the market going up, what, about 13%? And hybrids going up, the market went up 7, they go up 13. So they're actually gaining share of the car market, Chris.
But think of it this way.
All right.
An auto plant at full production used to be 250,000 units. Now
Yep.
it's about a buck and a quarter, 125.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's not even 4 full auto plants to build all the hybrids.
That's true.
So it's still
still-
a small
All
part
right,
of the
so
market.
it's still a niche player, but it means more of you out there are willing to spend a premium and extra money on this technology. Here's my only problem with this, okay? For all you, Toyota Prius drivers, you're the ones that always pass me up doing 80 miles an hour on 696. You've got a Prius. You're supposed to care more about your fuel economy, and your foot is in the bucket. I don't understand you folks. Why are you passing me? I've got a pickup truck. Leave me alone. No, but anyway.
I've driven near you, John, just because you're slow.
Lie. Here's the good news though. Ford and Lincoln are moving up the ladder. They're actually
Right. Well,
they're number 2.
It's probably the only thing the MKZ has that anybody wants is that there's a hybrid
Now
that
be
gets
nice.
No,
it
read thevirtualdriver.com this week and you'll read my review of the MKZ and you'll see.
And I think their pricing
Sorry.
really helped them too. That the fact
Sure
that
it did.
they price it the same as the gas
Absolutely,
model.
that helped an awful lot.
Great marketing idea. And then Hyundai Kia moving up past General Motors from 4th to 3rd. That's a surprise. And but those guys, they have a lot of money, and you guys are buying all their cars, so they're flush with cash, and they figure it out.
And GM never really did go for the full hybrid. They did more for the belt starter deal and all of that sort of stuff.
Right.
They went for the mild hybrids.
And you folks that you were sticking around $3.25 a gallon or so for a while, and maybe you're just thinking it's just worth your investment. Who knows?
It's taking too much of the money out of the pocket.
Very interesting. All right, Chris.
But
Uh-oh.
the real
Oh, here we
answer-
go.
The real answer
Okay.
to all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is the diesel.
Now, how did this news item get in here? That's all right. What do you have to say about the diesel, Mr. Diesel
They're,
Sawyer? Vin Diesel Sawyer?
They're getting much more. I'm going to shave my head. The automakers debating whether or not the American consumer would buy the diesel.
Yeah,
Well,
we have
guess
long
what?
said we were not going to buy them.
Yeah, well,
What?
they've sold more diesels than
Yeah.
Ford, Nissan, Honda, General Motors combined sold hybrids.
Wait a second. In the United States?
In the United States.
What are you doing, folks?
And that includes plug-ins and electrics.
Well, folks, what's happening out there?
Guess what?
You're embracing
There are
it?
no federal tax credits for diesels.
That's true.
There's no incentives, no state, no local infrastructure that has to be put
you
up.
don't get any breaks.
All you got to do is go and find the thing that says diesel on it, fill it up, and get 40-some miles a
But
gallon.
it costs more than gasoline.
Yes, it does, but that's only because of the taxation. Diesel actually costs less than gasoline as a crude product.
This is why you
And you
watch
would know
Cars
crude
and Contacts.
products.
Yeah. Wait a second. So I have old cars. So what? Okay, listen. If you guys, this is the best one. Have you guys ever felt the need while you're driving, said, man, you know what? I got to order a pizza.
Oh, in Washington and Oregon, only because they legalized pot.
They're always
Dude,
got the
I got the
munchies.
munchies,
No,
man.
no, I'm not talking there. I'm talking about here in Detroit. There is actually now, there's an app for that.
Oh, God.
Yes, here's an app for that, Chris. I know how much you like apps. Domino's Pizza.
Only if app stands for appetizer.
Then you get an appetizer. You can get that on your app too. Domino's, a Detroit-based company, or Detroit area company, and Ford Motor Company, another Detroit stalwart, have teamed together to offer an app so that in the Ford Sync system that there you can actually download what they call this this pizza profile. You put a pizza profile and say, I always like pepperoni, mushroom, blah, blah, blah. You put it in your profile, and when the app, use just voice command, order me a pizza from Domino's, and it'll order the pizza.
Can you put in more than one pizza profile and say, order me pizza number 1 because I feel like having, this on my pizza?
I don't know. All I know is that
You don't have the app,
I
do
don't
you?
have the app, and
Well,
'cause my phone,
what sort of consumer-based work is
because
this?
my phone flips out like that because they can't track me now.
Yes,
right?
but you keep picking it up going, Scotty,
You're terrible. So
beat me up.
you can use now. You can get this app through your application
The app
system
stores,
and,
yeah.
and the app store, and then Ford is going to offer it through their sync system. It'll be on their app links that you can find. And now, when you get home, you don't have to say, "Man, I should call home. Call home. Hey, order us a pizza. I'm running late." No, you can order it right from your car.
I guess that saves some time, but I'm thinking there were a lot of executives at Ford who had to buy dinner on the way home who thought this
Because
one
they're
out.
working too late.
Exactly.
That's why you watch the show, folks. But we're going to come back and we're going to talk about really the big dilemma in the pickup market is, should they be smaller, should they be lighter, or should they be something else? Right after this. Welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. I'm here today with Chris Sawyer, the editor and founder of thevirtualdriver.com. Chris, thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome, John. I had
Chris?
nothing else to do.
No, I know you did. But we are really pleased that you took time out because we've mentioned this before at our show. We've done a show on what happened to small pickups. We were at the auto show.
And we saw the aluminum F-150
we
and the Colorado and Canyon,
which really
brought up a question.
It brought up a huge question, and I promised our viewers we would try to tackle this with a topic of the day. So we're going to put you in the driver's seat on this one, and we're going to ask you what is going on. We did present the automakers here on Cars in Context with a great idea. We used to have big trucks and smaller trucks and middle-sized trucks. Now we've kind of only have big trucks and bigger trucks, and the small trucks are gone. We were all excited for a while. We heard that GM was going to revisit the small truck market, but Chris, when we went to the auto show, that's not the small truck
They
market.
gave us a Dodge Dakota.
Yeah. So what happened? What is research showing the automakers? Are we just that wrong on our views of where this market, what the needs are, or
No.
has the small pickup walked away from the market, or has the market walked away from the small pickup?
What happened was this goes back to when everybody was talking about what happened to kids and why don't they like cars anymore. What
Yeah, your
happened was
brother
they don't-
Jim Sawyer did a show about that.
Well, what really happened was they didn't have any money. They couldn't afford to buy anything. And now they're starting to come into the market and people are going, hey, guess what? These kids actually like vehicles.
What?
Yes, they do. And they want cars. They want the freedom. They're just like the rest of us, believe it or not.
They're
despite-
real people, our
Despite
own
what we
kids.
may think of them. Anyway.
They're not as
The fact-
crazy as we thought.
The fact of the matter is that this is a burgeoning market, and there's a generation coming up behind them that is going to be much the same. And depending on what happens with the economy and whether we're in the middle of a world war here in a couple of years, who only knows, we've got a bifurcation of the market. We've got the big trucks are having to meet the CAFE standards.
No, there's no getting around it.
The F-150 is the first shot in that whole thing, and everybody's watching it to see whether Ford can pull this off and make an aluminum pickup truck, make it work, make people buy it, and not look at aluminum and think immediately crushed beer can.
Right, right.
And the fact that it's not going to be safe. Aluminum is very safe. What then happens is that you have another buyer that's coming into this market, the person who may not be able to afford, there's going to be a price premium in the F-150. So GM has gone the safe route. They did the Colorado and the Canyon, and they're more of a 7/8 scale pickup truck. They're almost as long as a base Sierra, or actually have a longer wheelbase. They're narrower, they're taller. The bed is about the same size. Depending what the pricing is, a lot of people are going to be going, which do I buy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question.
But
what did it do?
There is the market that's not being served, and that is the young buyer, the buyer who, like with the Honda Ridgeline, and if Honda is smart, they won't go after the full-size pickup truck market. They'll sit there and go, you know what, there's a market here. And
it's not a truck.
It's not a truck. And I tell you, Volkswagen is looking at it. They've got their Amarok pickup truck in Europe. They can't bring it here right now because of the chicken tax.
Right.
There is a lot of movement in it, but no one's pulled the trigger. I am telling you right now, I don't care what anybody's marketing department says, that if anybody had any guts in this bloody industry, they'd go and they'd make themselves a small unit body pickup truck with a 4-cylinder turbocharged motor, gas and diesel, all-wheel drive, and they would sit there and they could sell it as a sports version. They could do lots of things with it.
This guy is no longer Chris Sawyer of the Virtual Driver. He is now
I'm a madman.
He's Hal Sperlich, the man who creates automotive. Who in this?
The guy who
created 3 market segments. I think Chris is 100% right about this. I think that the small truck market is missing out on a huge demographic. This new Colorado and Canyon, these trucks are mid-size. They're not inexpensive.
And they're not inexpensive.
They're just a way for General Motors to be able to sell you a truck that would meet the fuel economy standards. And maybe, do you need all of the capability of a half-ton? Probably not, so you get 7/8. Ford could have done it, Chris. They could have just skipped the aluminum F-150 at full size and brought in their Global Ranger. The Ranger overseas is an all-new truck. It's about a 7/8 size. Some people call it the F-100.
Well, it is, and they could have done it, but in and of itself, it is too close in size to the F-150.
So there's a confusion in the market. Well, should I buy? Which is what happened when Dakota came out. Well, it's a mid-size, and it gets the towing and the. Well, geez, so should I sell?
Well, GM has the advantage though that theirs is a global truck, where Chrysler didn't. They had to sell it in the U.S. GM, the sales here are incremental.
So you've seen the auto show, you've seen the trucks, you've seen the aluminum F-150. Great idea. Make it 700 pounds lighter. Man, I wish I could be 700 pounds lighter. I could get into my.
How much do you weigh?
It's my 700-pound life. It's a new series. No, 700 pounds is a whole lot of weight out of any vehicle.
Tons.
So the mileage factor.
The mileage factor and the payload is going to go up because there's less truck to pull around.
But there's aluminum is harder to pump and paint.
Well, it is because
you got to know what you're doing. The welding.
Aluminum takes a set when it gets hit, and it's very hard to straighten it out. Right now with aluminum panels, you go to any body shop and they tell us to throw them away.
So cost of repairing might be a little bit higher, but here's the other thing: they don't rust.
No,
so
exactly.
You guys driving around with that 40-year-old F-150, the big holes in the door where I can see inside your car, that'll never happen to this one.
Nope.
So I mean, there's some advantages.
There are a lot of advantages.
So the car makers are taking their idea pen and throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks. But we're telling you, there is a huge untapped white space.
Right.
For a small pickup.
And I know that there are people inside Volkswagen that are looking at the MQB structure to make a small pickup truck on. I know that there are people at Ford who have looked at the Focus structure, especially the next generation, said, hey, we could make something. It doesn't have to be a conventional pickup truck. It just has to have the bed, it has to have the interior, it has to have some of the capability. Beyond that, let your imagination run wild. You're going to find that there is a market out there, and it is huge, and not just young people.
Come on, America. Come on, the big 3. Well, big 2 now, because wait a second, Chrysler got purchased fully by the Italians, so they're really in a foreign automaker, and they're going to have.
It's a Chrysler corporation, you know.
Yeah, well, they were first owned by the Germans.
Yep.
And now they're going to be, even though the headquarters is going to be in the Netherlands, and they're going to
something like that.
Yeah. So all they need to be is by the Japanese, and then the entire axis of World War II evil will have owned Chrysler. But at least the big two. Come on, you guys. We have a market here. Young people do want a small, sporty, fun to drive, economical to buy, own, and operate truck. Maybe a small, something to get your dorm furniture back and forth to school, or throw your stuff in the back, please.
And you know who could really do this and do it well?
Who?
Chrysler. They could do it on Jeep.
Yeah, Jeep, and which is why Jeep is resurgent, because that's
Hey,
the kind
Sergio,
of,
pay attention.
Yeah. Well, that was absolutely 100% correct. I really want to thank you for your insights. Watch this space. We're telling you, it's got to happen, and
Someone's going to pull the trigger. It's going to happen.
I hope it's us. But you know what? It's time we have to shift gears right now.
Oh, now what?
Now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show. It's called Pride in My Ride.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the part of the show where you send me a picture of your car, and you tell me why you have pride in your ride, and we put it on the air. Now, if you want to do this, it's simple. It's J. Clor at carsandcontext.com, Pride in My Ride, bingo. You'd think all over the Grosse Points and the East Side to be getting hundreds of cars. But guess what? It's our YouTube channel now that people are watching us on YouTube, and they don't live around here, and they're sending me Pride in Your Ride. So come on, Grosse Pointers. This Pride in My Ride comes from a guy named Kevin Collins. He owns a 1964 Ford Country Squire station wagon. He lives in Hagerstown, Maryland.
I'm looking at it on the monitor. That is
That
sweet.
is a sweet old wagon. Now, he's out in Maryland, spotted our show on YouTube because he was looking up, he wanted to find a show about cars, and he just happened to, our
And
cars,
he found ours instead?
Yeah. Crazy. He says, so he's going to send it. He goes, could you put my car on Pride My Ride? He says, this baby is a 64, an original Country Squire Woody wagon. It's unrestored, Chris. It's a cream puff.
Really?
He said, look at the interior. This is the original seats in the car. It only has 62,000 miles on it. He said he's been driving it around. Now, he's not driving it this winter, but he's been driving around in Hagerstown. He said the thing is an absolute pleasure to drive. It drives like a dreamboat. He said it's got a 352. You remember the old 352 with a 4-barrel? So obviously, Chris, it gets out of its own way. And it's got the Cruise-O-Matic automatic transmission, power steering, power brakes. Look, Chris, it's got the dual exhaust hanging out the back because it's the 4-barrel version. How many people? He sent and then he also sent along a picture of a sign hanging over his garage that said he likes, he tells what kind of cars he likes. He likes Fords and Mercurys. Gives you a clue. Folks, if you want to be featured in Pride in My Ride, you can do this too. Just send me a JPEG picture or two to jclor@carsandcontext.com, and we'll feature you on Pride in My Rides. How simple could it be? Where's Grosse Point in all this?
If it's not a Ford, I'm bored.
That's the sign over his garage. So, thank you, Kevin Collins of Hagerstown, Maryland. I met him at a car show originally in Carlisle,
My
Pennsylvania.
hat's off to him. That thing's beautiful.
Good guy, and he's got a lot of cool cars. But don't let this guy take over, folks. Send me a picture of your car, for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? But that's not all.
Nope.
Now it becomes time for the favorite.
Oh, that's right.
Your favorite part of the show.
Viewer mail.
Yes, that's true. And we have Lauren Parrott of WMTV.
Well, this is the real reason it's a
That's the
favorite
only
part of
reason
the
why.
show.
That's right. Because Lauren comes out and Lauren, do we actually have viewer mail again? You can't tell me we have viewer mail.
You always have your mail.
How do we do it?
You're so popular.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, she's lying again.
And Lauren is so kind. So, yes, we've got some viewer mail. Chris, why don't you take this first letter, and I'll listen to you try to explain your way out of this thing.
Okay. This one comes to us from Joe R. of New Boston, Michigan, who watches Cars and Context.
Wait, that's
on,
out by the airport.
Yeah, on AT&T Uverse Channel 99.
Okay, Uverse. Yeah, you get to Channel 99. Yep.
Dear Cars and Context, I saw your show on Whatever Happened to Small Pickups.
Just talked about
And totally agree with you guys that there is an untapped need for compact trucks.
Yes, Joe.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Joe. My question is, if it's too expensive or too much of a risk to do a new small truck, why doesn't someone come out with a car-based pickup made off, say, one of their existing crossovers? Do you think a new El Camino or Ranchero would sell today? Well, you couldn't.
Now wait a minute. Didn't they do they did one? Didn't GM have one off the Pontiac G8 or something?
Yeah,
it was a
G8.
Ute.
It was a Ute. They were gonna produce it, bring it in, but of course Pontiac died.
Okay.
They could still do it under the Chevy SS.
Well, Ford had a
because
Ute
it's-
in Australia, but they're not building cars in Australia
No,
anymore.
no.
Oh.
But Chevy could bring in the Holden, and sell it as an SS here.
Well, you
The
think
problem with those things is though they're high performance. They're still a little cramped in the interior.
okay.
You need a fresh sheet off
Okay.
of use the platforms you got, guys. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. Trust me on this.
But that was a good question.
Oh yeah.
We gotta love that
Nice to
question.
think that you're thinking along with the rest of
You
us,
got
Joe.
yeah,
and
Joe is on top of it. He's watching Cars in Context.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I've got one.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because it says you do have one.
Yeah, it says, Dear John, I got a Dear John letter. It says, I loved your Freeway Fails show. Now, folks, that was
yes.
it was so good, we actually replayed it. And if you missed it, you got to go back and see it.
If
Call
only to see
War
me
Memorial,
get
get a DVD, go on our Cars in Context TV YouTube channel, watch it again. Because after we aired that about a month or two ago, now all the local media outlets are picking up on it. They're taking that same story and trying to run with, the investigators or whatever it is, and they're going after it. So the Freeway Fails show, he said, this guy who saw the show,
Yep.
Andrew Castleberry from Berkeley, he watches this on 18.2 UVerse, Channel 99, he said, I sent this note to MDOT about the lights being out, and I actually got a response. Here's a picture of what it looks like on I-94 with no lights.
Yeah, I was driving down there
It's dark.
recently. It's dark.
It's dark. Now, he says, dear, who do I contact about the center lights being out at dusk when I drive home on the Southfield Freeway, north of Grand River to 8 Mile? This is Andrew's trip home from Dearborn. These lights were put up during the summer of 11 on the M39 update. Should not be already burned out in a 2 mile section of brand new. And ditto for what we just saw on I-94,
Yeah.
which is those. And here is the answer that Andrew got from MDOT. And I'll read this to you. Thank you for contacting MDOT.
Of course.
Unfortunately, the lighting on our area freeways is a problem. Really?
I think so.
Very astute. Including that along M39, as you may have read in the paper or seen on the news or seen first on Cars in Context. There is a rampant problem with copper theft, and that is hitting us pretty hard here in Metro Detroit. We're working on getting as much funding as we can for anti-theft and other methods to fight the thefts. MDOT is supporting the legislation to make it harder for thieves to sell the stolen goods, which is essentially copper. More paperwork is needed to identify the sellers. Please know that we are working hard to get those lights back on and keep our roadways safe. It was thank you again for contacting MDOT. It was signed Diane Cross, which is MDOT Communications in the Metro region. If you want to email her, it's crossd2 at michigan.gov.
I got a question for you, Diane.
Okay, Diane.
Why does there have to be legislation to make it harder for thieves to sell the stolen goods? They're stolen goods, for God's sake.
You see, Chris, now how's the
I'm sorry, I'm being logical.
no, and how's the scrapper guy going to know that, you guy, this
When
homeless
somebody
guy,
who's
this
toothless
homeless
comes
guy
up to you and
he walks in
and he's
with $8,000 worth of brand new copper, he found it on the side of the road.
I have no need for this.
It's like that guy that, he just found all this copper on the side of the road. You think we need, well, MDOT, we appreciate the answer, but listen, folks, you got to keep on them.
a word that begins with a B. That's all I got to say.
They're breaking into the system and they're stealing the copper. It's just a real problem. They're looting Detroit and they're making it unsafe. As you see the show, you'll see why the lights have caused
When I
other
went over
problems.
to your house and we were going over to the auto show, 696 had a large section where the lights were out. I was shocked. And I'm telling you, this is a problem,
all
and
over
you've
the
got to
place.
put police on it, and this is nonsense.
And keep pressure on your legislatures and call, Diane, thanks for the answer, Diane Cross, but
Oh, sure, get me mad.
but that's why you watch us. Folks, can you believe it already? We're out of time.
Really?
I can't believe it. I know, but
Okay,
thank you
I'm going
again,
home.
Chris Sawyer of thevirtualdriver.com.
You're welcome, John.
The best blog in all of blogdom. Seriously, you're the best on the internet, and that's why we have you here. And folks, we want you to send in a question for either Chris or I or any of our guests here on Cars in Context. Send it to me, J. Clor, carsincontext.com, and we'll read your question on the air and give you a darn good answer. That's what I think. But thanks again for joining us. Remember, knowledge is really power. That's where the power is. It's in knowledge. Until next time, I'm your host, John Clor.
Or nuclear weapons.
Thanks for watching.